reading a concept of beautiful monsters from the book Why We Meditate. Page number 57. Beautiful monsters. All of us have some issues, challenging emotional patterns that make our lives and relationships more difficult. It might be unworthiness, or a particular kind of fear, or self-righteousness, or envy, or some kind of irrational anger. There are many possibilities. We often feel ashamed and irritated by our issues. We resist and react to them. Sometimes we hate them. Usually, we just wish they would go away. I like to call them beautiful monsters. Beautiful monsters are patterns of reaction that are slightly or greatly distorted. For example, if we felt undervalued or underappreciated as a kid, we might overreact as an adult to ordinary criticism or blame. This overreaction is a beautiful monster. Both parts of this phrase, beautiful monsters, are important. If we think of them as just monsters, we solidify our aversion and hatred towards them, which are really just parts of our own mind. If we think of them as just beautiful, however, we are denying the destructive potential they have and the suffering they can cause. It's important to understand that they are both monsters and they have beauty. The beautiful monsters have two types of beauty. The first is by their very nature. No matter how monstrous an emotion might seem, its deep, underlying nature is very different. Like the raw material of full-color 3D images projected on a screen is pure light, so the underlying raw material of our beautiful monsters is openness, clarity, and energy. So, beautiful monsters have that beauty. The second is that beautiful monsters seem ugly at first, but when we heal one, it becomes beautiful. When we heal something, we understand that dynamic not just within ourselves, but also within everyone who shares that wound. Many great beings have healed something and then become very wise and helped many people. If you have 10 beautiful monsters and another person has 2, and you both heal them, who has more capacity? You with your 10 beautiful monsters. You will have much greater understanding and capacity to help. But many people don't heal. They just live their whole life and suffer with their beautiful monsters. Beautiful monsters are formed in various ways. Sometimes we develop habits because of challenging relationships. Sometimes tendencies get provoked by circumstances. Sometimes repeated stress just makes us develop reactive habits. Something that was once helpful, like protecting ourselves in an unsafe environment, can become a beautiful monster when it gets hardened and habitual. We hate a certain kind of person or situation even though we are no longer in danger. I often get asked, are all feelings and emotions beautiful monsters? I would say no. Normal anger is part of the healthy, authentic relative truth. There is healthy anger, healthy fear, healthy attachment. These are not beautiful monsters. Beautiful monsters form when there is some unhealthy distortion in our mind and feelings. And then we start to believe their version of relative truth. If we become caught up by these beautiful monsters, they become our lenses, the way we see the world and see ourselves. When we heal those, we have normal, healthy emotions and experiences. Healthy human beings have a full range of emotions. Beautiful monsters are like ice. Their nature is like water. We don't have to destroy the ice but melt it. free it into its natural state of flow. We all know ice is both beautiful and scary. It can be sharp and jagged and very destructive. It may be frozen, but it's not different from water. Beautiful monsters are like that. They are frozen patterns of reactive and resisting. We are looking for water, but have ice instead. Then we forget that. Then we forget what and try to get rid of the ice or run away from the ice and find water, peace and flow somewhere else. So the question becomes how to melt the ice, the warmth of our kindness towards our beautiful monsters in the form of non-judging. This allows the ice to start melting. The method. Please note, if you have had a history of trauma, these practices of radical non-resistance can be intense. Please use common sense about how much you can reasonably take. Try this practice for very short periods of time and use a base camp, a safe place to return to in between feeling the feelings directly. This handshake practice is for healing, not re-traumatization. Consult with a mental health professional for support if that's helpful. Handshake. Working with our beautiful monsters. How do we face our beautiful monsters with friendliness rather than fear? Based on some traditional meditation techniques and my understanding of psychological wounding and healing, I developed what I call handshake practice. It's not a method as we normally think. It is more an attitude and a way of being. The handshake is between our awareness and our feelings. It's a metaphor for the stance we take, for how we can meet our beautiful monsters. Our minds have been pushing away or holding down our feelings and emotions for a long time. Now we are just extending our hand, not running away, not fighting, just meeting. Essentially, handshake practice is to be fully aware of whatever is in you, especially feelings. If they have a story to tell, we just listen. I feel this practice of handshake is very important for these modern times and has the potential to deeply heal us. This kind of healing can best occur where our awareness touches our feelings. To heal, we need to feel our emotions in a raw and direct way. Then the wounds and patterns of resistance can start to open up from within. Otherwise, we can try all sorts of healing techniques, but they may not really open us up. To actually transform, we need to make friends with our emotions. Understanding the theory behind the handshake helps us because we can see why we need to work on our distorted beliefs and attitudes in order to have real transformation. Otherwise, we can have temporary relief, but we will still be operating under the same assumptions and beliefs. For example, I'm not worthy, it is shameful to be angry, if I feel the fear, it will dominate me, I'll fall apart. But just reading about and contemplating these ideas won't change much. We need to face our beautiful monsters. Facing them means feeling them. Actual transformation happens mostly on the feeling level. When we learn to experience our beautiful monsters without resistance and reaction, we can actually befriend them. This is very loving, very kind to the beautiful monsters. Non-judging is a kindness. Handshake means being fully with the feeling. It's a very simple method to describe, but difficult to actually do for several reasons. First of all, our attitude is often that these beautiful monsters are just monsters and we want to fix them, to get rid of them. With that as a hidden agenda, handshake doesn't work. Handshake is not fixing. but rather meeting and being. Try this. Sit for a few minutes, settling into a quiet, contemplative inner space. Consider the relationship between your mind and your emotional world. How does it feel? Is it loving and open? Is it strained or critical? Does your feeling world seem mostly numb or raw and dynamic? However you feel, be with it and relax for a while. Then imagine if what you fear within yourself, your criticism, your doubt, your pride, became your friend. Imagine not being afraid of your feelings and emotions. Another reason being with our feelings can be hard is that we can be little afraid of our raw feelings and emotions. This is normal, but this is also why we need some courage to handshake our feelings. We have to be willing to feel our suffering, willing to take some hits. Think of an adult trying to hold a young child in a tantrum. The child screams and kicks and punches. And each time we gently put our hands on them, they push it away. But we understand they are upset and fundamentally beautiful and lovable, even in their contorted state. We keep offering our hand, even while they keep hitting it back. Eventually, they calm down and accept the open touch of love. The process of handshaking our beautiful monsters can be similar. Underneath, the beautiful monsters want to be friends. They want to be free. Try this. Imagine a child who is upset and flailing. Imagine having deep love for the child and willingness to care, even when being hit back for a little while. Then imagine offering that same attitude toward yourself, your beautiful monsters. Obstacles to handshake. There are 4 main obstacles to handshaking. Number 1, suppressing. 2, ignoring. 3, indulging. And antidoting. These are strong mental habits, probably the main ways we relate to our feelings and emotions. It is important to understand that handshaking is none of these. Most of us are quite skilled at suppressing. An uncomfortable feeling or emotion pops up at an inconvenient time and we push it right back down or stuff it under the carpet. This might work for a little while, but suppressing bleeds our energy, and the feeling or emotion will find a way to pop back up. For example, we might have a beautiful monster or self-doubt or unworthiness. When those feelings come up, we don't allow them. We don't listen to them, but rather we automatically judge them as painful and unacceptable and push them down back into our subconscious. Ignoring is another strategy we are highly familiar with. We simply run away, which means distracting ourselves. Where do we run? We can have positive distractions like some spiritual activity, a train of thought, or maybe we just watch movies. The problem is that in the long run, ignoring our beautiful monsters does not help them heal. If we ignore them, we might assume they are gone, but they are not. Ignoring feelings of unworthiness and losing ourselves in a TV show doesn't process or deal with the feelings. It's just a temporary band-aid. Indulging. Indulging is another way we often react. Handshaking, where we don't try to resist or fix the beautiful monster, can seem quite similar to indulging, but it's different. Handshaking meets and stays with the beautiful monster, while indulging believes its story, follows it, and lets it dominate us. Indulging in feelings of self doubt would be sinking into a mood of insecurity and allowing the familiar narratives of self doubt to dominate the mind. Finally, there is antidoting, which is applying some method or commentary or sense making to fix a problem. It sounds good on the surface. We have a problem or a harmful habit, so we try to fix it. Just like we fix our car or our bike when it's broken. Antidoting is like applying a remedy to a poison, putting a neutralizing emotion or thought onto the feeling of unworthiness to make it go away. Handshaking is feeling the feeling directly without trying to make it go away. Another example of antidoting is telling myself that everything is fine when I actually feel that things are not okay. Handshaking is feeling the sense of not okayness and making friends with it. Antidoting includes all sorts of psychological and spiritual approaches. But handshake is not an antidote. We are not trying to fix. We're just meeting and being, making friends with our beautiful monsters. Antidoting is a near enemy of handshaking because it is so easy to confuse the two. A far enemy is an obvious one, the enemy we can see facing us. A near enemy is sneaky. It is disguised as a friend so close when we often can't see it or we don't know it's an enemy. Antidoting is like that. Say we have tried many other approaches for our self-doubt and they didn't work. And then we hear about handshake. We might think, oh, this sounds good. This is a suitable and gentle technique. I will handshake my beautiful monsters and they will dissolve or go away. If we have this attitude, we have slipped into antidoting, which subtly sabotages our handshake. Once we have met the feelings and really felt them, we can just be with them. At first, don't talk, just be there. Once we can be with them, a shift will occur. And our feelings and beautiful monsters will start to trust us little by little. The trust will develop because we are no longer suppressing or ignoring them. When they attack us, we just touch them. We aren't hitting back. The handshake has contact with open love. When they tell us their stories, we listen. They will start to open up and eventually will ask a question. Then we can finally have a conversation. We can share our wisdom, giving good reasoning. We can tell them it's real, but it's not true. The feeling is real, but the message is not true. Yes, you really felt unworthy, but you are unworthy, but you aren't unworthy. The mind can send a message to the feelings because we have earned their trust. The feelings can communicate to the beautiful monsters. When the beautiful monsters starts to understand and feel, I'm not a monster, healing can happen. Until we touch the beautiful monsters with awareness, with the kindness of non-judging, the beautiful monsters doesn't care what we say. We have been talking at it that way forever, and it hasn't helped. So what is different now? Instead of lecturing, we begin by simply being with the raw feeling of the beautiful monster. That is kindness. If the emotional center of the beautiful monster transforms, that's the best. If not, first the surrounding feelings can transform, and then eventually the central feeling will transform. In our feeling world, okayness and not okayness can exist at the same time. The best is if the not okayness itself transforms into okayness. But sometimes a little corner of your heart can feel not okay, while the other parts are okay. So then what do? You acknowledge the okay parts, but you still care for the not okay part too. Because beautiful monsters have the ability to self-liberate. They have their own wisdom. Then what are we doing? Simply not disturbing them and not leading them in the wrong direction, but allowing their own nature to shine. When we aren't suppressing, ignoring, or trying to fix them, then we are respecting them. Then liberation can happen. This point is a little tricky. If we know too much about this self-liberation, we can carry expectations. Expectations can sabotage our open, welcoming attitude and therefore sabotage our handshake. Wanting to change a beautiful monster is actually a beautiful monster in and of itself. When you have the thought, handshake is just providing the beautiful monster the opportunity to open up, catch that thought and handshake that. If you do that a few times, those expectations will not continue. The 4 steps in handshake. Handshake lets our awareness be with whatever is happening in our feeling world without judgment, without resistance. Handshake practice can be broken into 4 steps: meeting, being, waiting, and communicating. The preparation for handshake practice is dropping, which we learned in chapter 2. But not all things can just be dropped. There are deeper, sticky issues that require more attention, more being with, more waiting, more love. We have become quite expert at avoiding, suppressing, indulging, and antidoting. These are hard habits to break. There can be many layers of fear, judgment, reactivity, and resistance between our awareness and our raw feelings. The practice of handshake is a way to navigate through this. We are learning to walk with dignity through the main door of our inner world instead of squirming and sneaking around. When mountaineers tackle a huge peak like Mount Everest, they establish a base of operations for their climb, a place where they can return as needed to recover more strength for the ascent. Your personal base camp gives you a calm space away from raw emotions, a safe space to retreat to when the intensity is too much. The base camp can be a point of mindfulness, like neutral body sensations. The palms and feet can be good for this, following the breath, or the gentle breathing practice from chapter 3. You can use it as needed from time to time as part of the handshake practice.